The rain hammered against the windows of the old manor house, each drop a tiny drumbeat against the glass. Inside, Detective Inspector Alastair Thorne sat hunched over a worn leather armchair, his gaze fixed on the flickering flames in the fireplace. The air was thick with the scent of wood smoke and something else, something metallic and acrid, that clung to the air like a bad memory. Thorne had been called to the scene earlier that evening, a seemingly routine domestic disturbance that had turned deadly. The victim, a wealthy socialite named Lady Eleanor Cavendish, lay sprawled on the plush carpet of her drawing room, a single, crimson stain blossoming on her pristine white gown. The Cavendish family, a renowned dynasty with a history as tangled as the ancient ivy that clambered up the manor walls, had gathered in the grand hall, their faces etched with shock and grief. There was the stoic patriarch, Lord Cavendish, his face as impassive as a marble statue. His eldest son, the brooding and ambitious Lord Charles, stood with his arms crossed, his gaze fixed on the floor. And then there was Lady Amelia, the younger daughter, her face pale and drawn, her eyes red-rimmed from weeping. Thorne had already interviewed the family, but the details they provided were sparse and contradictory. Each member of the Cavendish clan seemed to have a motive, a secret, a reason to want Lady Eleanor out of the picture. Lord Cavendish, a man of considerable wealth and influence, had been on the verge of a financial scandal. Lady Eleanor, a shrewd businesswoman, had been privy to his secret dealings and had threatened to expose him. Lord Charles, a man driven by ambition, had been denied his inheritance by his father, who had favored his sister. And Lady Amelia, a fragile and vulnerable soul, had been the victim of her sister's cruelty and manipulation. The only witness to the murder was a young maid, Agnes, who had stumbled upon the scene while fetching tea. Agnes, a timid girl with a nervous stutter, had been unable to provide any concrete details. She had seen a shadowy figure in the room, but she couldn't make out any features. As Thorne sat by the fire, the details of the case swirled in his mind, a confusing tapestry of secrets and lies. He needed to find the thread that would unravel the truth. He knew that the key to solving the mystery lay somewhere within the walls of Cavendish Manor, hidden in plain sight. The next morning, Thorne began his investigation in earnest. He meticulously examined the scene of the crime, searching for any clues that might have been overlooked. He questioned the staff, each interview revealing a new layer of intrigue and deceit. He discovered that Lady Eleanor had been involved in a secret affair with a local artist, a man named Edward Hawthorne, who had been seen at the manor on several occasions. Thorne found himself drawn to the artist's studio, a small, cluttered room filled with canvases and brushes. He discovered a hidden compartment in the back of a large easel, containing a collection of letters, love poems, and sketches, all addressed to Lady Eleanor. One particular sketch caught his eye. It was a portrait of Lady Eleanor, but it wasn't just a portrait. It was a coded message, a series of subtle details that hinted at a secret plot. As Thorne delved deeper into the artist's life, he uncovered a trail of deceit and betrayal. Edward Hawthorne had been in love with Lady Eleanor, but she had rejected his advances. He had become obsessed with her, driven by a twisted desire to possess her. Thorne realized that Hawthorne was the prime suspect, but he needed more evidence. He returned to Cavendish Manor, his mind racing with possibilities. He knew that the key to solving the mystery lay in understanding the relationships within the family. He decided to focus on Lady Amelia, the youngest daughter, who had been the most vulnerable and the least likely to be involved in the crime. He spent hours talking to Lady Amelia, listening to her stories of her sister's cruelty and her own feelings of isolation and despair. He discovered that Lady Amelia had been secretly in love with Edward Hawthorne, and that she had been the one who had introduced him to her sister. She had been unaware of his obsession with Lady Eleanor, but she had been aware of his dark side. Thorne realized that Lady Amelia had been the key to unlocking the truth. She had been the one who had inadvertently set in motion the events that led to her sister's death. She had been the one who had brought the killer into their lives. He confronted Lady Amelia with his suspicions, but she denied any involvement in the murder. She claimed that she had been unaware of Hawthorne's intentions, and that she had been horrified by her sister's death. Thorne didn't believe her. He knew that she was hiding something, and he was determined to find out what it was. He decided to take a different approach, one that would force her to reveal the truth. He gathered the entire Cavendish family in the Grand Hall, the same hall where Lady Eleanor had been murdered. He announced that he had discovered the identity of the killer, but he wouldn't reveal his name until he had heard from each member of the family. One by one, he called on each member of the family to speak, to share their secrets, their fears, their regrets. As each person spoke, Thorne watched their faces closely, searching for any sign of guilt or deception. When it was Lady Amelia's turn to speak, she stood up, her face pale and trembling. She spoke of her love for Edward Hawthorne, of her fear of his obsession with her sister, of her guilt for introducing him to Lady Eleanor. She admitted that she had known about Hawthorne's plans to kill her sister, but she had been too afraid to stop him. Thorne knew that she was telling the truth. He had seen the fear in her eyes, the guilt in her voice. He had seen the truth in her heart. He arrested Lady Amelia for the murder of Lady Eleanor Cavendish, and she confessed to her crime. She had been a pawn in a game of love and obsession, a victim of her own fear and guilt. As Thorne led Lady Amelia away, he couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. He knew that she had been a victim of circumstance, a pawn in a deadly game. But he also knew that she had made a choice to protect her own secrets, a choice that had cost her sister's life. The rain continued to fall outside, a relentless torrent that seemed to wash away the secrets and lies that had been hidden within the walls of Cavendish Manor. The truth had been revealed, but the scars of the past would remain, a haunting reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of even the most seemingly perfect lives.